everyone, it's another English time at ISIFE EDUBLOG with your guide, Martin Agba, and it is the continuation of our work on prepositions. We had introduced you to the use of prepositions, where we talked about how prepositions are used with respect to dressing and transportation. Now, we shall be looking at how prepositions are used with respect to places and others you will see on the course of this video. Now, I've often heard people say, I work in UNN, that is the University of Nigeria. I work in UNN. That's not apt, right? I work at UNN. Now, we at, you give the name of your company. For instance, if during the festive period, the Salah, the Christmas celebrations, and all those seasons, you want to send happy season or compliment of the season message to customers, say we at, you mention your company, we at Globalcom, we at NTA, all right? It's at, not in for such names, all right? I work at UNN is correct. He lives in New Haven, Enugu. Now, why did I demarcate this? Why did I put it this way? Again, if you live at a place in a place, you heard me say at a place in a place, the smaller place takes at, the bigger place takes in. So New Haven is a place in Enugu. So it shouldn't be I live in New Haven. It should be I live at New Haven. I live in Enugu. Alright? I live in Enugu. Somebody may now ask, what part of Enugu? At New Haven. Take note of the differences. We met at the airport. Not in the airport. We met at the airport. Okay. So he lives at New Haven. Enugu is correct. She sells clothes in Ogbete Market. I had added market to make it specific. Ogbete is a village in Enugu that has the largest market in the state. And whether you call it Ogbete Market or simply Ogbete, the preposition is at. She sells clothes at Ogbete. She sells clothes at Ogbete. Alright? We live in Goshen Estate. We live in Goshen Estate. No. Estates and other planned places, whether by nature or by man, take on. Please take note of these things. Now, I have a number of them on the board. Estate is planned, most often in Nigeria, fenced with the same kind of building. All right? Such places take on. Other examples, island is a place surrounded by water. That seclusion is what we're talking about. Surrounded by water, it takes on. Continent, the same thing. A large place this time around, it gets surrounded by water. Or what do you think is the reason behind calling Egyptians or Moroccans Africans? They're not like me. Of course, they're not like me. But because the same axis, the same ocean surrounds all of us, we are seen as belonging to the same continent. And so continent doesn't take in because of this. It takes on. Is that understood? So don't use in with continent. You can say in Africa. Please take note of how these things go. Languages are tricky. Don't quote me wrong by saying, I said you live on Africa, not in Africa. No, I said on the continent. on the continent. Africa takes in, Europe takes in, America takes in, but continent takes on. Now, so we have some of them like that. The same thing applies to campus. Of course, let's take them one at a time. So this one says, we live in Goshen Estate. Now, you could notice my pronunciation of the word estate. It's not estate. Estate or estate, even if you preferably, because this E is with. It's estate. This stress is on state, not on estate as we tend to pronounce. No, that's wrong. So, the correct thing is, we live on Goshen Estate. Live on Goshen Estate. She has a house in the island. That's wrong. She has a house on the island. Whether it is Victoria Island or Banana Island, whichever one, it is on the island. Okay. There is no elephant in the continent. Wrong. There is no elephant on the continent. Correct. We agreed to converge in Abuja. Wrong. Converge prefers the use of on to the use of in, irrespective of the size of the city. Alright? The verb converge prefers the use of in to the use, prefers the use of on to the use of in. So the right thing to say is, we agreed to converge on Abuja. He lives in campus. Wrong. He lives on campus, or he lives off campus. In case he doesn't live on campus, he lives off campus. Alright? In football, I've often heard football fans say, he came in. Alright? When you are substituted, you go off the field, and somebody that is introduced comes on. Please take note. I have an example here. Luke Shaw came in for Foden. No. Shaw came on for Foden. Shaw came on for Foden. Don't ask me how that could be possible. Don't just take the grammar and leave the information. He headed to the door. He headed to the door. Much as I may not condemn the use of to entirely with head as a verb, it is better to use for. He headed for Lagos. Alright? He headed for Lagos. These things we have. Let's look at this one. Do you live in the street or on the street? This is one question I've had to answer time and time again. He lives in alright? He lives in Odom Street. In British English, to be on the street is to be homeless. The Americans can say otherwise, but as I've often said, my benchmark is the British English, and this is a better way. He lives in Odom Street, or he lives at number 10. He lives at number 10, Odom Street. To be on the street is to be homeless. Alright? So if I took him off the street, then he was on the street because he hadn't a place to be in. Alright? If I throw you back to the street, Where I found you, fine, means I make you homeless. So basically, the meaning on the street is not used. On the road is acceptable, but in the street is the word, right? In the street is different from on the road. Even if the road is the road of the street, they are two different things. The street is not just the road. The street is the road and the houses by the side of this road. That's our understanding of this usage. So know exactly how to go about it. Next, we look at business.